Thank you to our speakers, first of all, for joining us here for this very interesting topic about innovation and entrepreneurship and how co-working is promoting these two factors. But before we go into the session, let me start with a very philosophical question to all our speakers. And I would ask our audience also to think about it. So my question to all my speakers is, what is the purpose of office? Juggy, starting from you.
It's very interesting that you say that, because I was talking to somebody this morning and they said that office will have to earn their space if they really want to do well as an asset class. Yeah. So when I say earn that space, is basically you will have to make it very compelling for the occupiers, employees to come to your spaces. And a significant portion of that earning is to make it so compelling in terms of the overall experience that you do not want to step out of office for any other reason other than going back home. So I think that's the holistic experience that developers like us are actually trying to do. And when we do that, you're actually also enhancing people sitting on this side to ensure that they take up those spaces, because you, as a co-working player, you're only taking up part of the flow plate or whatever it is, the holistic experience from the time you come into a building, the guest experience, the vertical transportation, the time taken to come from main door to desk. Those things are becoming very, 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 unique. And if you don't look into those things, I don't think your buildings will get leased. So I think, if to cut a long story short, I would say office of the future will not be what it is today. And if people don't change, they will not be in business, to put it straight.
So offices will have to be something which make people come in traffic.
Absolutely.
To that.
So somebody was asking, so I'm just telling you, from a nail spa to a shoulder massage, from a EV charging to a brewery, from a pet store to everything, should be available in the office of the future.
So maybe a few years down the line, we'll be asking, what is the purpose of home? Maybe. So Sumit, what do you have to add? What's your interpretation?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Since this is a philosophical question, I'll just go back to fundamentals, the general fundamentals for, let's say marketing. Despite with digital and everything coming up, the fundamental core purpose of marketing remains the same. Similarly, I think the core purpose for office still remains the same. What it does need to do is foster individual productivity, drive effective communication, and drive collaboration among people. Now, these are the core principles why people come to office. Now, the aspect we are all asking ourselves, because there had been major changes across the world, is why will millennials and Gen Zs come to office? I think they need structure. Everyone needs structure, but the difference is they need structure without restraints, right? So the offices need to be redefined, redesigned, and realigned. Juggy mentioned, a lot of other aspects why it comes. I think the way it's getting done, and it's already evolving over the last couple of years, the more me versus we spaces. A lot of offices, we did a kind of a survey and we realized it's almost about 50% kind of redistribution between me and we spaces. That's the reason why people feel like coming to offices every day. The second reason, I have a very contra call around on world, because the world has become more uncertain. The world has become more dynamic. So when the world becomes more uncertain and more dynamic, there needs to be more familiarity, and people need to come to offices to, be more productive around. So
Right.
the core purpose
I
of
think
office
main
is
thing is the structure that an office space provides.
an office
I think
space
that
provides
is
an extraordinary
something
kind of structure.
At the end of the day, people would need, even if whatever you want to work in hybrid or you want to work from flex or from traditional, but structure is something what Sumit said is required. Pankhuri, what would you like to add? What's your meaning for a office space?
I think for me, office is basically the flow of energy that you get. Are you there to basically enhance your productivity, and the experience has to help overall. So we're discussing a lot in terms of what would change, how would things evolve. I think one thing which has been established, and Kunal spoke about it extensively, is that the base case of office has actually changed, and that's for better, because the entire experience is now into focus. Couple of things that we understood from our customers is that there are 5 core things that would remain same, and rest of it would keep evolving. So one factor is location. I think gone are the days where the senior management would decide that this office space is near to my home, and that is where the prioritization needs to be done. Now it's much more consultative process where the CXO team, the leadership team speak to their team, understand in general, they map out where do the employees live, what is the connectivity, and that's where our focus has been a lot to say that we'll be closer to the metro with the 5-minute metro strategy, and it's remove the drudgery for a lot of employees because the accessibility is there. Second, again, the understanding is people do want more natural space, more greenery, more sustainability. They want ergonomical furniture. There is again, with this NZ, a lot of focus on collaboration, common spaces where people can come together. And on the experience part of it, what it means is that we have to go beyond saying that this is an office space with great designs, great wall art, amazing furniture.
We'll come to that in the later part
Sure.
of the session. But like you said, the flow of energy, I
Yeah.
think, the collaboration, and when all the people are together, the kind of ideations that can happen,
Yes.
that can only happen in a space which is provided by an office. So, Shesh, coming to you, your last word very quickly. What is the purpose of an office?
So I think, Sapna, thanks. I think good set of points have been already put in. I would say, I think if I would take an approach, right, I mean, there is a work side of people, there is a personal side, right? And I'm somebody who can be easily rated as a workaholic. So always, so I think I always can see, at least I believe that, I always try to design it for myself because I'm myself a workaholic. And anything that is designed I always try to think, will it make me more productive, right? Because I'm designing it for the workaholics, right? Eventually, and can it really make people stay? What is important, right? Every single aspect has to be considered to make people much more productive. And the aspect is, of course, there is a distributed work mechanism, obviously. But, in that case, even then when they're working from home, they still have a physical infrastructure. Of course, they've created it for themselves. But if we leave that aside, it's maybe a little difficult to address for us. At least the environment where people have come together, can we make it really amazing, right? Can we make people much more productive here, right? From the, I think one is the basic infrastructure itself, be the internet works or the power, etc. To breed greenery or anything, the question always is, does it help the work, right? If there is greenery, the question is, hey, I can take a walk.
At the end of the day, office space does add to productivity because of the physical space, the infrastructure it provides, and the services that it provides, the structure as it provides, Sumit said. And as Juggy said, that probably offices will have to start earning their place in the whole scheme of things. So let me now go on to the specific questions for our speakers on an industry view. I think all of you must have also thought about this question, what is the meaning of office? And we would love to know your viewpoints if you have something different to say or something to add. But yes, after this session. But Juggy, let me come to you. You've been on both sides of the segment, flex spaces as well as the commercial real estate development.
Forget I was a broker also. I was a broker also.
Right.
So 3 segments.
Okay, fantastic. So, you are the right person to ask then. So for a growing enterprise, we are talking about innovation, we are talking about entrepreneurship. So if a company is growing, they want to create their own brand identity, they want to create their own place. would you suggest a hub and spoke kind of a model with their own smaller branches in different places, or integrating flex within their portfolio? What is the best way to go?
So I think it's very typical. Like, yesterday we were at a event where Knight Frank released a report in terms of how the global office demand is changing and shifting, and hybrid and flex and all of that. But one thing which really struck me is that without actually pushing and nudging, people are actually wanting to come back to office. So if you look at the overall global occupancy level, we are at about 49-50%. Pre-pandemic, we were at about 70% in any case, because many tech companies did not push their employees always to be in office. So that's, if you take that part and then you add the 3 years where we went through, where people could work from Goa or Lucknow and work for Accenture in Bangalore or Meerut or wherever they are, I think that is not going to last forever. That's very clear. But what will last forever is the flexibility that people have realized that all the companies will actually look in terms of keeping a 20-30% flex option, wherein they get the flexibility to invest, not invest from their perspective and somebody else. So that's on a portfolio level, you have 30-40% where they can take, and then 60% of their own space, which they call their own identity, wherein both employees can either work from here or work from the other central office, which they call their own, depending on travel time, depending on logistics, depending on many other things. Today, nobody wants to travel more than 40 minutes to work. The moment you break the threshold of a 40-minute travel time to maybe a 1-hour travel time, it's actually killing productivity. So, and the pandemic has actually taught us that many companies today, the reason why we are seeing a sluggish demand in office is that people are still trying to soak in as to what model works for them. And that's the reason there's a blip in the market today, where people are actually thinking, pausing, whether they wanted to go full with people like, the co-working players, or they want to take 20% of that, whether it's going to be of their own. So I think at this point of time, my guess is it is going to be at different types of companies will have different demands. But if you take a broad, holistic view, I think it'll be a 60-40 to 60 to themselves and 40% towards portfolio that is outsourced to people like the co-working player. I think it's almost crystal gazing for now, but I think it's slowly evolving that, it won't be that 3-4% of the total gross absorption that co-working will do. Co-working will settle at about 10 to 12% of the total
are going to see
market.
more integration of flex within the portfolios.
I can easily say that in the next 3 to 5 years, co-working will settle at about 10 to 15% of the office market, which is a sizable amount. Given the fact that if you do a 20% CAGR on the office markets, given the fact that we are going to a 3 trillion economy and all of that. So 70 million square feet is my prediction in 3 years from today. We'll be at a 70 million market. At 70 million, if you're doing 12% or 15% of that, it's a significant portion of thing, and that translates to that entire thing. Sorry.
So I think for even for a company which is growing, integrating flex within their portfolio and probably having a hub and spoke kind of a arrangement for their flex spaces. Sumit, what do you have to add? You have been collaborating with Prestige on flex spaces. So what's your reading?
See, I'll add to what Juggy said. He said 10 to 15%. 10 to 15%, let's say 15% we take. It's about every 6th lease going forward is going to be a flex lease. Our internal estimates are more, bullish. Because we are more biased. So we think about 20-25% of absorption going forward.
You're on the IPO part.
So what I'm saying is about every 4th or 5th lease is going to be a kind of a flex lease. Just on a lighter note, if you talk about all the real estate panel discussions, every 30% of these panel discussions are around on flex. So we are faring a bit better on those around. But coming back, I think with respect to the hub and spoke model, even irrespective of pandemic, when we started about in 2015, we always thought that network would take a larger kind of a role in a country like India because of massive urbanization opportunity, and the kind of infrastructure will never be able to match up to that. So even to manage that, one need to have much more offices, a much more hub and spoke kind of setups, and people are going to choose around on that.
Yeah, so I think it is combination of hub and spoke and flex offices and traditional offices. We are going to see a lot of
Pandemic just
mixing.
accelerated the whole change.
Correct. Shesh, coming to you, we have spoken about the space, but how are co-working going beyond just providing a physical space? How can services go beyond just being used as a commodity?
I think,
Especially when we are talking about fostering innovation, entrepreneurship.
of course, I think it's important that co-working spaces, one is for ourselves also as players to have value. I think one is always try to see what happened with the hotel industry. I think with too much commoditization, I think I know in places like Bangalore, when a lot of old hotels, amazing hotels, are trying to give it to somebody like me, I know that too much of commoditization happened there, and people used to make much. I mean, people tell me 20 years back, my room realization higher than today. I'm like, wow, this shouldn't happen to us, right? So I think that's why it's important that there has to be a differentiation. And fundamentally, I think our industry is luckily, because it's B2B and it has its own complexities in how it works. I really don't think it will ever become exactly like hotel level of commoditization. What I really see is different players, to be very honest, are very different. If you take multiple players in a flexible leasing space, everybody is a bit different in their own way they deal structure. Somebody's doing back-to-back, somebody's addressing different type of customers, and co-working is very different. So I think already it's not as easy to commoditize because it is quite diverse. I think for the high level, a lot of people will feel, hey, it's one single industry, but when you go into details, different people are trying to address different kinds of people.
I think in terms of services, it
Yes.
is creating the differentiation between the players.
Absolutely. I think services as well. I think we were kind of mentioning, right? So I think for me, one of the things has been a campus model is something we at least pushed in. We have 3 campuses, which has...
We'll go on to that in the next set. But Pankhuri, we all, in the earlier panels also, we had been speaking about collaborative spaces. Juggy and Sumit mentioned about me and we spaces. One of the strong point of co-working is the collaborative spaces. But there are 2 viewpoints on that. One is that, yes, collaborative spaces with multi-generations from different industries working together can create a nurturing or a conducive environment for startups. But the second viewpoint is that it can be a distraction from focus on work. What do you have to say on that?
I think the view there is the advantages actually trump any disadvantages that you might perceive. So to give you an example, again, India is in a massive digital boom. There are a lot of startups starting right now, and we still think we are scratching the surface and it will be huge. So the first place that the startup is with the co-working spaces. And if you speak to any entrepreneur, and a lot of entrepreneurs who are customers, one thing that they actually seek is collaborative space where they can interact with other entrepreneurs, because there are common pain points that they see. And they find a lot of value in the community events that a co-working player like us or even Sumit would organize, in the sense that it gets them to understand what other companies are going through at different stages of the growth. Plus, there are a lot of commonalities or capabilities that they would want to interact and learn from the other entrepreneur. Second, we also as a player do partner with the members who are sitting at our spaces to actually make use of the capabilities and strengths that they have. So it's a lot of idea sharing, understanding, plus co-working players do have incubator accelerators to support their growth. So all of these are again a lot of advantages that you get in that small network of the co-working space that you sit. That typically you may not get in your own office space. Interestingly, you will see a lot of the enterprise Fortune 50 companies are having their digital arms or the new companies sitting in co-working space just to take these advantages.
Okay.
So I can quote example of Reliance Jio or even Tata Digital also. They're sitting in co-working space just to get that advantage of interacting with other entrepreneurs and have a understanding of those capabilities that typically they would miss in their own core company.
So the advantages are more, as you said, ideating, interacting, the common learnings, pain points that they can share with each other. Juggy, do you think these points, the collaboration and the technology, can tip the scale in favor of flex than traditional offices?
So It's interesting when I was in WeWork, I still remember we had a discussion where when we were trying to put a plan as to how much of it will be enterprise in India and how much will be freelancers and startups and all of these. At that time, the direction from US was India is going to boom in terms of, these startups and these small guys who are going to be starting their own small companies. I think it was a little too ahead of its time for the simple reason, you know, for many of the garage startups that started up in Bangalore, they were actually sitting out of a 10,000 rupee rented home, where 4 people or 5 people used to sit and do coding. When they started, going to the next level, they started visiting Starbucks and meeting people there and working out of there. For them to come and work in a WeWork where they were paying something like 40,000 or 30,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees, a desk was a dream. They could not afford it. And that at that point of time, this model was, in fact, I still remember the first large deal when I was in WeWork. We did a Amazon space for 1,000 seats inside WeWork. Okay. Nobody actually thought of it that you could do something. That's where it started. But today, if you look at the model that they are all working, I think it's almost a 80-20 model where 80% is enterprise and 20%. And when we started this co-working, it was actually a 60-40, 50-50. Also, what's happening is, India is a very price-sensitive market. Right. So, kitna deti hai is the most important line. Right. And the value of collaboration comes secondary. What they really want to ensure that they get a larger runway to invest and to ensure that they are in business for a long time. And that's the reason. I would say if especially big players like SmartWorks and Office and WeWork, they should keep a 10-15% space to inculcate these new companies, because keeping a long runway of their own business, they should look at I would say, if they want to do a CSR, that's the CSR they should do.
Okay, fantastic. So one suggestion for all of you from Juggy, Marwaha. Now, this was the industry level perspectives that we got from our speakers, and I couldn't agree more. Yes, that is settled that yes, co-working does promote entrepreneurship, does promote innovation among companies, especially the startups, through their spaces and through their services. Coming to the specific strategies of organizations that our speakers represent, Pankhuri, you mentioned about 5 minutes to metro station. Juggy said, the office spaces need to attract now, the people to themselves. So how does that strategy work?
For us, again, when we go back to our customers and understand what are the things that matter, and that would not change, location or the accessibility is the first factor that comes across. Specifically after COVID, where companies are looking to actually ask the employees to come back, this becomes a major factor, because people have understood that work can still happen from home in the last 2 years. So what are the incentives for them to come to office? So one, location and accessibility slightly makes it easier. So for us, it's very important to be in the right locations, right infra, because that's one point. And it also reduces the transportation cost for the employees. So it's a win-win situation both for the employees and the employers also at the same time. Second, again, basic infra is again table stake. That's the expectation which is there. And a lot of focus on having multiple kind of spaces within co-working, which is private office, some quiet space, and then you also need to have common areas for collaborations. Right. That's the second part. And third, as Juggy mentioned, value for money. At the end of it, India is still a very price-sensitive, conscious market. People would look into what value for money are they getting out of the space that you're offering or the value that you're offering, and they're very, very smart about it. So I think these 3 factors is something that drives the whole conversation for us.
Value for money, mix of spaces, and location.
Location for us trumps the
3
first
factors play an important role. Shesh, you mentioned about campus model facilities that you are providing. How does that work towards nurturing productivity for companies?
Yes. See, I think we were speaking about the facilities, right? So of course, I think already the importance of location, etc., has been spoken about. While these are all important, one of the aspect for me personally was, when a long time back, I'd worked in Infosys campus. Then I was in US. I worked in Bloomberg's campus, and worked in a lot of great offices. And always the dream was, and by the way, Google, I think, pioneered at some stage having an amazing office, and it was always a dream. And I ended up going to Google's office also in US. I went to Facebook's office also in California. So I think I could see what these guys are doing, what a Facebook is doing, what a Google is doing. Is there a way that we can provide it to multiple people, right? I think that was one of the way the thought process came, right? I mean, today if you look at a 5-star hotel, maybe a Raja at one time could live like this. Today, all of us can afford this in a way, at least for whatever period we want, right? Why can't we have the same process was always a thought process. And somehow I got lucky that got access to some properties during pandemic at the right price. And I think it gave me an opportunity to really try that out, to be able to have a cricket, football, badminton, volleyball, all these things. I think one is that I think, like I said, I think, while of course innovation is also about moving things, right? It's not like everything is invented by me or us. Google had already done a lot of things. So the question is, can we bring that to others at the right price point? Because price is also important. If that can be brought into the right location at the right price point, that kind of an experience, it was already proven that people want. Right. So now as startup, I think so. Basically, I think the idea was we should have an office that people love to come to, right? Because especially after pandemic, a lot of people do question, hey, should I come? Right, for whatever reason, right? And I think I do see that generally employers or managers or leaders see the bigger importance. Arey aana hai. Sometimes even though the mindset is quite often, because for various reasons a lot of people would resist coming as well. Of course, there are companies where remote makes sense. That's a different story. But I think the idea was to make that Google Office kind of experience provided to more people. And I think that's something that people are enjoying.
Those who aspire to probably work in Google campus or a Facebook office, so they could get that kind of similar atmosphere or similar kind of a campus when they are working in the co-working.
Absolutely.
Okay, so fantastic. That's a pretty interesting model that you have. Sumit, we were talking about offices present in 17 cities now across metros, tier 1, tier 2 cities. When we are talking about startups or SMEs, where do you see the least demand for flex spaces and most demand for office?
See, with respect to startups, I would say for flex spaces, they are the lowest hanging fruits. I mean, they find us. We don't even need to go to startups because we provide flexibility, and also our product resonates very well, so we don't have to do that aspect. What we are seeing is all the 7 metros, it's a straightforward demand. Today, I can open any kind of offices in BKC, and there is going to be absorption, or any kind of offices within any kind of micro markets across that. Tier 2 is a kind of a great reveal over the last 3 to 4 years. We are seeing a good kind of a demand from large IT companies in a war for talent, and in their ability, in their endeavor to find new talent. They are setting up their centers in tier 2 cities. So cities like Bhubaneswar, Kochi, Lucknow, they are Nagpur, Ahmedabad. So they are ample kind of demand. If we talk about a core SME and a co-working demand in tier 2 cities, the way we look at is, and we operate across a lot of these tier 2 cities, all these tier 2 cities have an ability where we can set up almost about 3 to 4 centers in a year, not more than that. This demand generally is in the cohort sizes of about 20 to 50 odd seats coming from various kind of SMEs. And they're also coming from a lot of larger companies because they need to have satellite offices in various parts of the country. If, let's say, a Zomato needs to grow or a Grant Thornton needs to grow, it also needs to have their own offices across all the tier 2 cities. So that's the kind of demand we are catering to. And they don't want to set up their own conventional offices. They want to work with players like us. Specifically because everyone talked about what is co-working doing for startups. I will say specifically for early stage startups, some kind of collaboration which co-working can do helps a lot. Our internal theme is there are 3 things which can work very well for a startup. You can help them with mentoring. They need mentoring, they need networking, they need luck. These are the 3 kind of things we can do. On the first 2 aspects, we can hold a lot of events. We can provide them access to investors, access to the bonding around various kind of customers, find new customers for them. mentoring and networking we can do for them. In terms of luck, we can just wish them, luck, and a lot of great success stories are emerging out of a lot of co-working as well.
Right, right. So, in terms of quick metros or tier 2 cities, where the demand is more, the big cities or the smaller cities?
So, demand is secular. It's following the overall India growth GDP trajectory. So, it's both in metro and tier 2 cities.
Okay.
The way I look at our portfolio, I look at about 75% of the portfolio will be in metro, but 25% of the portfolio will be in tier 2, which will be a large segment of tier 2 because let's say by March we have about 250 odd centers live. We'll have almost about 60 to 70 centers live in tier 2 cities.
Okay, okay. So metros are bigger part of your portfolio, but I'm sure tier 2 cities, I think we are going to see a lot of growth in this segment, the way things are moving in terms of economy. Juggy, from your experience of collaborating with the flex operator, what have been your learnings? What have been the way forward? And on a different note, probably are you looking at REITs for prestige offices? How?
Second question, I'll tend not to answer for now. But the first part of the question in terms of collaboration, I think there's a decent amount of consolidation happened. I still remember in 2016-17, there were more than 300 brands doing co-working.
Right.
That has come to about 10-12 players who are serious. And no prizes for guessing what has kept them together or maybe ahead of the pack, and the segregation of men and the boys. Quite clearly, I think discipline in terms of not putting the cart before the horse and all of that, it's important because when you go and pledge spaces and then you don't have clients to fulfill those spaces, and I think all of them have realized that, you need to pay that rent check to the developer, come what may. Pandemic taught us to be very considerate towards every business, but also keeping in mind that many of them were playing even a valuation game in terms of showing number of seats. But people have realized now this is a serious business, and if you want to be, pehle hum bolte the ke, there's a banking financial sector, BFSI takes so much, manufacturing takes so much, Indian companies are taking so much space. Today, co-working, 5 years ago, the co-working was not part of the pie chart. Now co-working is part of the pie chart as a very serious asset class. Yeah. So for any serious business to be there has to be seriousness across players, seriousness across the partnerships that developers build with co-working players. And also I think over a period of time, you'll realize that everybody will find their niche. A WeWork finds its niche, a BHIVE finds its niche, SmartWorks finds its niche, SimplyWorks finds its niche. They find their own niche. And I think from a occupier's perspective also, you will see that different segments of businesses are getting attracted to different players. And that's very healthy because some of them are in small towns, some of them are in big towns, some of them are all across. They can do a pan-India partnership with an Accenture or a Google or a Microsoft.
So we are going to see more collaborations between.
You will see that. And I think you will be left with about 10 to 15 players. The consolidation has happened even on the developer side. Today, if an RFP goes out to any large, from a large client to any of the big developers, there are about 5 or 7 serious players in every city who have that kind of stock and the patience and the determination to build a deeply invested asset class where too much of capital is needed. Similarly for them also.
That's right. That's right. A lot of consolidation is happening, and our speakers shared their own experiences, their own strategies on how they are working within their organization for occupiers, for companies in terms of fostering their entrepreneurship. Our time's up. Time is up. But before we close this session, we started with the philosophical question. Would like to end it on a similar note. If instead of the mics you had the crystal ball, and you were looking in the crystal ball, what will be the future like for flex spaces? Sumit, starting from you. One sentence, what do you see in the crystal ball for flex spaces?
Yeah, like I mentioned, every 4th lease is going to be a flex lease, is what I see in the next 2-3 years.
Okay, fantastic. Very positive. Juggy, what do you see? What's the future like?
Co-working or office market generally?
what do you see? I means
अच्छे दिन आने बाकी हैं.
अच्छे दिन अभी आने बाकी है. Pankhuri, what's your...
I bet it will disrupt the office space and enhance employee experience. I think that will be phenomenal.
Okay, fantastic. Shesh, what do you see for the future?
I think, of course, there are many things that's going to happen. I think one of the things I would really think should happen also is, as the inventory is taken up, there'll be and as Mr. Juggy says, we are being seen as an important part by developers. I think that'll only going to become bigger and bigger, and there will be time when we will collaborate at a design phase of construction of a building itself, right? A hotel like this has to come up, or a Marriott has to come up. From the beginning itself, there's a collaboration, right? Today, we have to really go and adjust to what the building is out there, right? From a parking to everything. So I think there will be a lot more amazing, innovative buildings eventually will come through collaboration.
He's saying that please involve them from the design stage itself. So great. I think future, as Juggy rightly said, अच्छे दिन है future में. So very bright future for co-working, I think. And each business has its own DNA. So I'm sure we are going to see many more interesting models coming up in terms of workspaces. We have just scratched the surface, as our speaker said. We just co-working. Probably we'll see more evolution in terms of not only co-working, but also our office spaces. So thanks a lot to all our speakers. A very insightful session, a lot of things to learn. And thanks to the audience also for listening to us patiently. And I'm sure you had some very valuable takeaways from the experience that our speakers shared. Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun time and great learnings from this session. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.